Hey, 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 I got the early Monday morning working blues. I put on my ragged, worn out working shoes. Well, the weekend was too short, but I can't choose. When the Lord made the working girl, he made the blues. Well, I'm tired of working my life away and giving somebody else all of my pay while they get rich on the profits that I lose and leaving me here with the working girl blues.
In the 1930s, 1 out of every 4 Texas women worked outside the home. Compared with women workers across the country, Texas women were paid lower wages, worked under worse conditions, and had less union representation. Little is known of the history of Texas working women as a group. The women in this film will begin to tell the story.
Ollie, ollie, working girl blues, and I can't even afford a new pair of shoes while they can live in any old penthouse they choose. And all that I've got is the working girl blues.
My father is from San Luis Potosí. My mother is from Mier y Noriega in Mexico. And of course, I don't know how old they were when they got married, but my oldest sister was born in Monterey. And when she was about 8 weeks old, they crossed here to the United States. And that was in 1908. So in a way, we were migrants also. We migrated also. The first time that I remember going out of the city of San Antonio, we went to Michigan, and they were harvesting beets, sugar beets. Of course, I was very young. I wasn't doing that. That was in 1924, the first year, and the second year was 1925. And thereafter, we used to go out pick cotton. You know, going out to the field to work, to pick cotton for 30 cents, 100 pounds. And then if the cotton wasn't any good at all, there wasn't very much that you could earn. You couldn't earn nothing to live on.
Cuando me enfadé del traje, me volvió a invitar a aquel.
In San Antonio, low-paid seasonal work such as pecan shelling compelled most Mexicanos to migrate as farm workers during the off-season. Entire families worked in the fields to supplement their income.
Ay, qué trabajo tan mal pagado por andar arrodillado.
Well, my grandfather was a Methodist minister, and at the time I was going to school, and just prior to going to work, I had the idea I would like to be a foreign missionary. And then, of course, I guess this became my missionary work at home. Is the only... people have asked me that, and the only thing I could ever come up with was that this did take the place of that missionary work that at that time I thought I wanted to do. My daddy was a carpenter and a builder, and my mother had passed the teacher's exam to teach school, but of course she got married and never did teach. So we just lived an ordinary life. I went to school there in Dallas, Sunset High School, Winnetka Elementary School, and then I went to work, Justin McCarty's. They ran an ad, and there was about 100 of us showed up that morning because jobs were not that plentiful. So out of the 100 or so people that were standing around waiting, the floor lady did the hiring, and she went through the crowd, and I wasn't aware of it at the time, but what she did was to go through and pick out all the younger people. She hired about 50, and the others were sent away. And so we all went to work right that day. We didn't wait till the next day or anything. She just went through and with her finger pointed out you and you and you. Well, the Depression was in 30, and that was 29, so it was actually just prior to the Depression. I mean, I didn't really see that much difference, if it had any effect at all, because wages were so low then that they couldn't have gone any lower.
And I was thinking back the other day how far I could remember my mother working. It seems like, I don't know, since 1927, I believe she was shelling pecans at that time. I can recall her working there because I was still in school at the time. And then the three of us, three sisters, we were going to school up until the time the Depression set in. Then we just couldn't afford to go to school anymore. The Depression just came in, and it seems like there was nothing else we could do but help work. It was a depressive situation. I don't even know how, I can't even describe it. It was sad, it was ugly, because when you see people that are hungry and there is no place to go get food, or rather no money to buy it with, it's a very sad situation. And it's not like it was just these neighbors or a few people. It was all over. Everybody was mostly all in the same boat. The conditions were poor, naturally, very poor. Because when you get 50, 60 persons all in one place, sitting side by side, really sitting and on wooden benches, mind you, not chairs, wooden benches, makeshift benches, and being there for 8 hours, maybe 9, 10 hours a day, it's a very bad situation. Of course, we had no sanitary conditions at all. No sanitary conditions, period.
In some of the shops, there was more than one floor of machines. They were dirty, there was no fans, there was no ice water. The lint and dust just hung from the ceilings. It was really a sight to see, and very hot and dirty. They had bathroom facilities for about 5, depending on the size of the shop, 5 or 6 people at a time, and with 400 employees. And you were told you couldn't go to the restroom only at lunch hour and during a 15-minute break. And it was utterly impossible for that many people to get in the restroom at that time. And I remember one lady who couldn't wait and had an accident in her seat, and that really riled people, particularly me, who put the boss to a test about going in the restroom and waiting out to see if I would be fired for it. I went in, and when the floor lady told me I couldn't go, I said, I am. And I said, you tell Mr. Adelsberg if he doesn't like it, he can come and get me. And she said, well, he'll fire you. And I said, well, that's what I want to see. And she said, well, you really want me to tell him this? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, all right. And she started to leave. And I said, Bessie, tell him if he sticks his head in the door, I'm going to hit him with his chair. So I went in and I stayed for a good 20 or 30 minutes. And when I walked out, he was waiting for me. And he wanted to know if I was trying to make a fool out of him. I said, no. You made the fool out of yourself when you passed the note around and said no one could go to the restroom. And I said, go up and look in under Ms. Sutton's chair. And I said, you'll know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And he said, well, I could fire you. I said, that's your privilege. That's what I want to see. But he didn't.
They would pay the heart, the whole pecan, they would pay better than the piece. Piece was cheaper. Okay, the best I can remember was being 5 cents a pound. And from there it went down. And I mean all the way down. To the point where some people were not getting paid with money anymore, but with beans and potatoes and staples, rice, shortening, salt, baking powder, coffee. And I don't mean that there was a whole bunch of it, just a pound of this and a pound of that. Maybe 5 pounds of beans, a sack of flour, 25-pound sack of flour, maybe 10-pound sack of flour, whichever they felt like giving you. My mother never allowed that though. Oh no, she fought for her money. If it was $1, she was going to fight for it, and she was going to get it.
The largest pecan shelling factory in San Antonio mechanized in the mid-1920s, but the machines were soon scrapped because it was cheaper to hire Mexicanos. By the 1930s, the 10,000 to 12,000 Mexicanos working in the industry shelled a quarter of the nation's pecan crop. 80% of these workers were women.
Whole families used to go in there. Not just one person or two, but whole families used to sit there and work together. They would sort of put like little boxes, divide them in little boxes, so everybody had a little box, but one long table. You had to clean it, you had to shell it, and then you would have to go over it several times so there won't be any shells in it. And even the piece, the little pieces, you would have to take every bit of that shell out of there so that it won't have any. So at the time that the evening or whatever time you were getting ready to leave, then you would have to go out to the front where the man was, and they would weigh these pecans, see how many pounds you have shelled for the day. And then they would inspect it. And if you have any shells left in it, they would give it back to you, and you had to go and do it all over again. 2 or 3 times, as many times as until there was not a single shell left in it.
These people were not people. They were just nothing. They didn't care as much about the people that worked for them as they did the machines, because when a machine broke down, they had to hire it fixed. When you broke down, they just put somebody else in your place. There was no loyalty, no care. It just didn't matter if you got hurt in the shop. I ran a needle in my finger, and it broke off, and thread hanging from the top side and the bottom side. And it took me about an hour and a half to see a doctor and get the needle out. But they didn't care about that. You lost this all on your own time. They really thought you were less than human.